I work night shifts at a regional emergency call center. Most calls blur together. Accidents, drunk arguments, people scared of shadows. You learn to separate emotion from protocol. That's how you survive the job. But there is one call that doesn't exist in our system, and I remember every second of it. It came in at 3:17 a.m. No caller ID, no location, just static breathing. I followed procedure. Emergency services. What is your situation? A man answered. Calm. Too calm. I need you to stop sending help. I thought it was a prank. Sir, if this is not an emergency, it was an emergency. 10 minutes ago. I paused. Where are you calling from? You already sent them. They're inside now. I checked the dispatch board. No active units, no outgoing calls, nothing. Sir, I don't see any responders assigned to your location. He exhaled slowly. Then who did you send? Before I could respond, I heard a door open on his end. Not slammed, not forced. Opened carefully. A second voice appeared, quiet, distorted. We found him. The man whispered back into the phone. Please don't turn on the lights. The line cut. I filed it as a dropped call. There was no other option. At 4:02 a.m., an ambulance crew reported a deceased male. No signs of struggle, no break-in. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. Location matched, no call in our system. When I reviewed the night logs later, my stomach tightened. At 3:17 a.m., there was an entry. Not a phone number, not a location, just a note added manually. Do not respond again. I never wrote that, and I don't work Wednesdays anymore.
I work as a taxi driver in a small town. One rainy night, I picked up a young woman from the bus station. She gave me an address far outside of town. We drove in silence. The road was empty, only the sound of rain on the windshield. When we arrived, I turned to tell her we had reached. But the back seat was empty. Her seatbelt was still buckled, and the seat was dripping wet. When I moved into my new apartment, there was an old mirror left behind in the bedroom. Every night, as I tried to sleep, I felt as if someone was watching me. One night, I turned on the light, and in the mirror, I saw myself already standing, even though I was still lying in bed. The reflection smiled. I did not.
I live on the 12th floor of an apartment building. Last night, while scrolling on my phone, I noticed something strange in the reflection of my window. There was a shadowy figure standing right behind me. I jumped and turned around, but no one was there. When I looked back at the window, the figure was closer, its head tilted, its face pale, with hollow black eyes. Then, the reflection smiled and placed its hand on my shoulder. I felt the cold touch, even though the room was empty.
I moved into an old house 2 years ago. It was quiet, a little outside the city, and perfect for someone like me who wanted peace. But there was one strange rumor. People said that at night, footsteps could be heard inside this house, even though no one was there. At first, I laughed it off. Ghost stories, I thought. But one night at around 1 a.m., while I was reading in bed, I heard it, slow, heavy footsteps, coming from above me. But there's no upstairs in my house. I froze. My eyes darted toward the ceiling. The sound stopped. Then came another noise, the scratching of nails, or maybe metal against my window glass. My heart pounded. I reached for my phone to call the police, but before I could, I heard my front door creak open. Someone, or something, had entered. footsteps climbed the stairs one by one until they stopped right outside my bedroom door. I could hear breathing, deep, slow, heavy. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even move. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the door. It didn't open, but the sound was so strong that I fell to the floor and blacked out. When I woke up the next morning, everything looked normal. The door was closed. The windows were locked. But one thing still remains today. On my bedroom door, deep scratch marks, as if something tried to break in.
I used to live with my grandparents when I was a teenager. Their house was huge, built more than 100 years ago. But there was one strange rule. I was never allowed to open the last door at the end of the upstairs hallway. Whenever I asked about it, they only said, "That room is locked for a reason. Don't ever go in." Of course, that only made me more curious. One night, when my grandparents were asleep, I walked down the hallway. The air felt colder as I got closer to that door. To my surprise, the door was slightly open. I swear I didn't touch it. I pushed it open just a little more. Inside, there was an old rocking chair facing the window. The moonlight shone on it, and the chair was moving, slowly rocking back and forth, even though no one was sitting. I froze. My heart felt like it stopped. Suddenly, a voice whispered my name from the corner of the room. Not my grandparents' voice, not anyone I knew, just a low, chilling whisper. "Come closer." The door slammed shut behind me. I ran to it, but it wouldn't open. The whisper grew louder, turning into a growl. The rocking chair began slamming violently, banging against the floor. And then, in the window's reflection, I saw her. A pale woman standing right behind me, her eyes completely black. I screamed. The door burst open at that moment and my grandparents dragged me out. They never spoke about it again. The next morning, the room was locked and the rocking chair was gone. But sometimes at night, I can still hear it upstairs, creaking, rocking, waiting.
I had just moved into my new apartment. Everything felt perfect until one night, while brushing my teeth, I noticed something strange. In the mirror, my reflection wasn't moving with me. At first, I thought I was tired. I waved my hand. Nothing. The reflection just stared at me with a frozen smile. Suddenly, the bathroom light flickered. My reflection raised its hand slowly, but I wasn't moving at all. I dropped the toothbrush. Then it whispered, "Let me out."
At exactly 3 a.m., I woke up to 3 slow knocks on my front door. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. Nobody should be here at this hour. I checked my phone, no messages, no calls. The knocking continued. Finally, I gathered the courage to look through the peephole. My blood turned cold. Standing there was myself. Same clothes, same face, and same eyes, except the copy of me whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." I moved into my grandmother's old house after she passed away. The place was quiet, too quiet. On the very first night, I heard faint whispers coming from the locked basement. At first, I thought it was the wind. But when I pressed my ear to the door, I heard my grandmother's voice whispering my name. The whispers grew louder each night until I finally gathered the courage to unlock the door. The basement was completely empty, except for an old mirror in the corner. In the reflection, I saw my grandmother smiling. But behind me in the real basement, there was nothing.
When I moved into my new apartment, I noticed a strange wall, smooth, blank, with no doors or windows. At night, I heard knocking from behind it. One night, I pressed my ear to the wall. A voice whispered, "Help me, let me out." The next morning, a crack appeared on the wall. By the following night, it was wide open, like a door that wasn't supposed to exist. I looked inside. It was an empty, pitch-black room, except for one thing. A man, identical to me, was standing there, smiling. I bought an old mirror at a flea market. The seller warned me, never look into it at midnight. Of course, I didn't listen. That night, at exactly 12 o'clock, I stood in front of it. At first, I only saw my reflection. But then, it smiled. I wasn't smiling. Slowly, my reflection raised its hand and waved at me. Then it stepped forward out of the mirror. The last thing I remember was my reflection whispering, "Now I'm free. You take my place." The next morning, they found the mirror standing in the market again. This time with me trapped inside, screaming silently. Last night, my phone rang at 12:30 a.m. The caller ID said, "Me?" Confused, I answered. A voice identical to mine whispered, "Don't go to work tomorrow. You'll never come back." Terrified, I stayed home all day. That night, I turned on the news. There was a massive accident at my workplace. Everyone who showed up didn't survive. The call saved me. But here's the thing, my phone shows no record of any call at all. I had just moved into a small apartment downtown. Cheap, quiet, and perfect, or so I thought. But there was one thing that unsettled me. Every night, the bedroom door would be slightly open. At first, I assumed it was me. Maybe I forgot to close it. But one night I locked it. I remember turning the key, pulling the handle and checking twice. At 3 a.m., I woke up to a faint creak. My door was wide open, and in the darkness of the hallway, two glowing eyes stared back at me. I froze. The air turned cold. My phone was right beside me, but when I grabbed it to turn on the flashlight, the eyes vanished. The next morning, I checked the lock. It was still turned, locked from the inside, which means whatever was inside last night was already in the room with me.
Every night around midnight, I hear footsteps above me. But here's the problem. I live on the top floor. At first, I thought maybe it was just pipes or old building noises. But one night, the footsteps stopped right above my bed. I knocked on the ceiling, and the footsteps knocked back. My heart raced. I grabbed a chair and stood up to listen closely. Then, I heard a whisper through the ceiling. "Don't look up." Against my better judgment, I did. And in the cracks of the ceiling wood, two pale eyes were staring down at me. It was past midnight when I got on the last bus home. Only 3 other passengers were inside, silent, motionless. The driver didn't say a word as the bus drove into complete darkness. I blinked, looking out the window. There were no streets, no lights, no city, just endless blackness. When I looked back, the other passengers were staring at me, eyes empty, faces pale, and one by one, they started to smile. When I was a kid, I was always afraid of what might be under my bed. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of whispering. I froze, listening carefully. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from beneath my bed. Trembling, I leaned down slowly, and a voice whispered, "I've been waiting for you." A pale hand reached out from the shadows, grabbing my wrist. Last week, I missed my bus and had to take the midnight train home. The station was nearly empty, except for one old man who kept staring at me. When I boarded the train, I thought I was alone, until I saw him again, sitting at the far end of my carriage. Every stop, more passengers left. But he never moved. When the train finally reached the last station, I got off. I turned around to see if he would follow, but the train was empty. Completely empty. I was traveling for work and stayed in a small hotel. Nothing unusual, until I stepped into the bathroom. The mirror was slightly fogged from the shower, but I noticed something terrifying. My reflection wasn't moving the same way I was. When I raised my hand, it stayed still. When I turned away, it smiled. The last thing I remember was the reflection stepping out of the glass. When I was a kid, my grandparents warned me never to go near the basement. They said it was unsafe. But at night, I often heard the old wooden door creak open by itself. One night, I decided to check. I walked down the hallway, and the door was wide open. The cold air hit me, and I heard faint whispers coming from the darkness below. I was driving home late at night on an empty highway. My headlights cut through the fog, and the road was silent. Suddenly, I saw a woman standing on the side of the road, wearing a white dress. She raised her hand, asking for a ride. I slowed down, and she silently got into the back seat. She didn't say a word, just stared out the window. My heart was racing, but I kept driving. After 10 minutes, I turned around to ask where she was going, but the back seat was empty. I inherited my grandfather's old clock shop after he passed away. At night, I would hear all the clocks ticking at once, even the broken ones. One evening, I stayed late to repair a clock. At midnight, all the clocks struck 12 in perfect unison. The sound was deafening. When I looked up, I saw shadows of people standing around me, faces twisted, eyes empty. One whispered, "Your time has come." The next morning, I woke up on the floor, the shop dark and silent. But the clock I repaired was missing, and so was my reflection in the mirror. When I moved into my new apartment, there was an old mirror left behind in the bedroom. Every night, as I tried to sleep, I felt as if someone was watching me. One night, I turned on the light, and in the mirror, I saw myself already standing, even though I was still lying in bed. The reflection smiled. I did not. After my father died, I kept his old radio as a memory. It hadn't worked in years, but one night, it turned on by itself. The static slowly shifted into a voice, his voice. He said my name. Then he whispered, "They're coming for you." I froze, unable to breathe. The radio crackled again, and I heard faint footsteps outside my door. When I opened it, the hallway was empty, but the radio still played. And this time, the voice wasn't my father's. I was traveling for work and stayed in a small hotel. Nothing unusual, until I stepped into the bathroom. The mirror was slightly fogged from the shower, but I noticed something terrifying. My reflection wasn't moving the same way I was. When I raised my hand, it stayed still. When I turned away, it smiled. The last thing I remember was the reflection stepping out of the glass. I work as a taxi driver in a small town. One rainy night, I picked up a young woman from the bus station. She gave me an address far outside of town. We drove in silence. The road was empty, only the sound of rain on the windshield. When we arrived, I turned to tell her we had reached. But the back seat was empty. Her seatbelt was still buckled, and the seat was dripping wet.
I was taken to the hospital after a minor car accident. Nothing serious, just a concussion. A nurse asked, "Should we call your emergency contact?" I said yes. She looked confused and said, We already did. He was here an hour ago. I don't have an emergency contact. Security footage later showed a man signing my forms, using my full name, my birth date, my signature. The hospital never found him, but my medical records were permanently changed. A co-worker died last Friday. Everyone at the office attended his farewell meeting. Everyone except me. At least, that's what I thought. Monday morning, my manager asked why I looked so shaken during the speech. I told him I wasn't there. He smiled politely. You sat in the front row. My colleagues agreed. They remembered my questions, my comments, my voice. Security footage confirmed it. There I was, sitting still, not blinking, not speaking, just watching. I don't remember being there. Later that night, I received an email from my own work account, sent during the meeting. It read, "Stay calm. If you remember this, it means I failed." Attached was a video file. It showed me turning slowly toward the camera and smiling. A co-worker died last Friday. Everyone at the office attended his farewell meeting. Everyone except me. At least, that's what I thought. Monday morning, my manager asked why I looked so shaken during the speech. I told him I wasn't there. He smiled politely. You sat in the front row. My colleagues agreed. They remembered my questions, my comments, my voice. Security footage confirmed it. There I was, sitting still, not blinking, not speaking, just watching. I don't remember being there. Later that night, I received an email from my own work account, sent during the meeting. It read, "Stay calm. If you remember this, it means I failed." Attached was a video file. It showed me turning slowly toward the camera and smiling. The hospital called me yesterday. They said my test results were ready. I told them I'd never been there. They paused and read my address. Then they said, "You were discharged this morning."
I live on the 12th floor of an apartment building. Last night, while scrolling on my phone, I noticed something strange in the reflection of my window. There was a shadowy figure standing right behind me. I jumped and turned around, but no one was there. When I looked back at the window, the figure was closer, its head tilted, its face pale, with hollow black eyes. Then, the reflection smiled and placed its hand on my shoulder. I felt the cold touch, even though the room was empty.
Every morning at 6:40, I stop at the same cafe before work. Same coffee. Same table. Same 10 minutes. One morning, the barista said, "Your friend already paid." I told her I was alone. She pointed to the receipt. It had my exact order, and today's date, and a note written at the bottom. "You were late by 3 minutes today." That night, I found photos of myself taped to my apartment door. Photos taken from inside the cafe, from across the street, from my hallway. Someone wasn't watching me. They were studying me.
I was taken to the hospital after a minor car accident. Nothing serious, just a concussion. A nurse asked, "Should we call your emergency contact?" I said yes. She looked confused and said, "We already did. He was here an hour ago." I don't have an emergency contact. Security footage later showed a man signing my forms, using my full name, my birth date, my signature. The hospital never found him, but my medical records were permanently changed. A co-worker died last Friday. Everyone at the office attended his farewell meeting. Everyone except me. At least, that's what I thought. Monday morning, my manager asked why I looked so shaken during the speech. I told him I wasn't there. He smiled politely. "You sat in the front row." My colleagues agreed. They remembered my questions, my comments, my voice. Security footage confirmed it. There I was, sitting still, not blinking, not speaking, just watching. I don't remember being there. Later that night, I received an email from my own work account, sent during the meeting. It read, "Stay calm. If you remember this, it means I failed." Attached was a video file. It showed me turning slowly toward the camera and smiling.